Hi, this is Cindy from Vintage to New, and today we're going to be trying something different. This is a type of free motion quilting that I'm going to do with my sewing machine and using all of our scraps to make tags. And so I'm going to try a different camera angle so that you can see me sewing, and I'll be talking with you as we do it. And so without delay, let's get started right away learning how to make these little snippy tags. So let's get going. So the first thing we're going to need is the snippets that we're going to use, just our leftover stuff. If you're like me, you could clean the floor off under your sewing machine and have enough for 20 tags. So here's what it is. I'm going to use the paper tags we cut yesterday out of a book. This was a really big book. It was 9 inches tall. I cut them down to 4 inches wide. The way I've been doing these tags is working in the middle, knowing that I'm going to cut some off of the top and the bottom. So it just kind of just makes it easier. You're not trying to work in a restricted area, and then you can just cut it when you're done. So 7 inches is what this will end up, is what I'm going to cut it. So you get scraps of lace and fabric and paper and music, and they don't have to be big pieces. It can be small little pieces that we're going to put in. So without delay, let me get my camera reset up and we'll figure out how to do this. So here's the camera angle I'm going to try to use. So let me tell you a little bit about the setup that you'll need to do on your particular sewing machine. You will need to have what's called an free motion foot. This happens to be what they call an open toe foot here. And it comes open toe and closed toe. So this is what a closed toe foot looks like. It doesn't have any place. Now the advantage of this one, the open toe, you can see what you're doing a little bit better. The advantage of this one is there's nothing to get snagged into what you're sewing, because sometimes this open toe, you'll get a loop of thread around it. So I'm going to use this one so that hopefully you can see a little bit better. So that's the kind of foot that you're going to need. The other thing you need to do is put the feed dogs, the part of your sewing machine that goes like this, that feeds the fabric through. You put your feed dogs down so they're not doing any of the pushing of your fabric. You're going to do it all like this with your hands, okay? Now, I was able to purchase a foot like this for my white sewing machine, and my white sewing machine is like 50 years old. And even using this kind of a foot, putting my feed dogs down, my white sewing machine that's really old did not like doing free motion quilting. So I'm hoping your machines will all do better. If you have a newer machine, I would suggest that you look on YouTube and find someone who's doing free motion quilting with your kind of machine for tips, you know, on how to get it set up. But it's actually really simple. You just put your foot on, and that's the only setup other than dropping your feed dogs that we need to do. I was just going to show you this kind of close up really quick. You can see that my lines intersect each other. I cross over and all of that. Free motion quilters, they're very particular about how they quilt their quilts, and having your lines cross over is a big no-no. But we're not doing a quilt, are we? We are just playing around with our scraps, trying to get a beautiful tag for our journal. And so don't stress too much, especially when you're first starting, about crossing over your lines. So let me just show you how I do it and we'll get going. So anytime you're sewing, and this is included, if you've put a new bobbin in your machine, be sure to pull your bobbin thread up and put it to the back. I'm using 2 of the pieces of book paper. We used 3 when we did our tag yesterday, but we're going to be adding a lot of stuff to the top. So you still have to put your presser foot down to make your machine work right, but you'll notice this does not touch the paper. So you just start going and you just move it slowly around. You're just attaching that paper down. And this is my first piece, so it doesn't have to be completely attached because we're going to add more stuff to it. So push my presser foot down, and then I think I'm going to add a little piece of fabric. So I'm just going to rip off a piece of fabric and add it in. So, like I said earlier, you are controlling how big your stitches are. Of course, you're controlling with your foot how fast you're going, and I suggest that you don't try to be a speedster first time out. It does take a lot of practice, but you're learning a great skill. This is a great way to practice doing free motion quilting without having to do it on a quilt. Now, let me get this down just a little more. This piece of lace, you'll see it wants to get caught on the the piece of the presser foot right there. So this is definitely one that the closed toe would work better on. So you'll kind of see what I mean. See how it wants to get stuck right there? And I'm just kind of going to tack this down and come back. All right, so that piece of lace is tacked. So let's add some music. Let's just add it right. I'm sorry, this angle is just not great. It's the best I can do. Just a second. Okay, so let's try that and see if it works a little bit better. So let's add some music. So I'm just gonna get it under my presser foot, try to keep my hand out of the way, and just start going. And already I have that stuck. So maybe that will help a little bit. So this little scrap of paper from the music book says copyright 1900. So I think I'll add that in up here. And we'll just turn ourselves around, work our way back up to the top. Just go around the edge, kind of highlight that a little. You can see I'm not, being super fussy. My stitches are all different lengths, which if I was doing a quilt, I would work really hard on keeping it the same length and not crossing over and all those fancy things. But I think it's beautiful doing it just this way. And when you get a little better, you can do things like make a little heart, kind of go around it a couple times so it stands out. So you can just add different things in. Here's a piece of my rose fabric from my journal that I did. I'm going to just do curly cues around the edge. It's hard to do it one-handed, I'm sorry. You can see where that open toe really does drag it down. So if you're going to go out and buy one, buy the closed toe. I'm going to use some more of my green paper that I like so much. And this one has the design already cut in it. It's in my little scrap bin. And I'm going to leave a little bit of the writing showing through. For me, I like to have almost exclusively ripped edges on my paper and ripped fabric pieces. And if you'll notice, it's coming off the edge over here. That's just fine because I'm going to come back and trim that up when I'm done. Let's get another little piece of music in here. And I'm just layering them up. I'm not completely covering my green, but a good bit of it's getting covered. I hadn't put any cheesecloth in yet, so let's do a little bit of that. Now this is probably going to really cause trouble with this foot. Not too bad, I'm not at the edge, so. That worked out pretty good. How about a little snip of seam binding? So basically you're just using all the supplies you already have. Usually it's a great place for all your leftovers. That lace needs to be tacked down a little bit better. And back up towards the top again. Let's do another little piece of seam binding over here. Go the other way. Oh, it really got stuck. I'm going to add in another piece of cheesecloth. See, I'm going backwards. Like I said, you control all the motion with your machine. So just to finish this up, I'm going to use the word imagination because I want you guys to really just use your imagination in thinking of how you could use this. It is really fun, and what a great way to use up your scraps. So I'm just going to go around the edge, preserving the word. I'm not going to go over the word. And then I'm going to tack down anything that's still sticking up. Down here. So I'm going to move my camera and we'll finish this tag. Okay, so here's the 2 tags that I have done for today. You can see that I had trimmed this one off. So the first thing we're going to do is trim off any of the paper and stuff that's hanging over the edge. If you have fabric hanging over the edge, if your paper scissors are like mine, they won't cut it. So use your good scissors. Kind of check everything out. That just looks really pretty. So then I'm going to cut it down to 7 inches. So I'm going to cut across the top first here. Flip it around and find 7 inches. There it is. And my cutter cuts through the sewing just fine. And it's so laced up, intertwined, having it cut, it won't really matter. So here's the 2 tags that I did in just a few minutes. Would you like to see what it would look like if we cut it into a tag shape? We could use this as a tuck spot in a journal, so you would just glue it down one side and tuck something behind it. We could put a pocket on it. We could do all of those things. But let's see what it looks like if we cut it down to a tag shape. So here's one of my little templates that I like to use. And I'll use these scissors. Kind of snip that edge, flip it over. Snip that edge. So now it's the more recognizable tag shape, and the rest is up to your imagination on how you want to try this. I do wish you luck on your sewing machine. I hope it works for you. I'm hoping that the newer machines all work because it's such a popular thing in a lot of circles to do. So I'm hoping the newer machines work better. My Bernina, it works great with the presser foot down and doing the free motion quilting. But I always say my Bernina is a princess. It doesn't like to do anything that's heavy duty. So it might even have trouble if I bulked up too much stuff, where my white is just like a superhero. It can go through anything. So every machine is different, and you're just going to have to give it a try. And so until next time, this was Cindy from Vintage to New.